If this is your first time to the program, welcome. This section, which I have entitled Appointment with a Ghost, is actually the third part of a much larger, yet untitled YouTube project. The first part of which I have called How I Came to Like the Woman in the Picture. Here anyhow is the scoop. On the morning of June 29th, 2010, I was awakened from sleep by a dream. The dream was a message, and it spoke of my going to visit a quote-unquote ghost of summer. This message had been repeated 3 times in the dream, and in a kind of sing-song. Upon awakening, I recorded my thoughts on a digital recorder. So rare and wonderful would then be the coincidences over the weeks which followed, that I would record these thoughts too. Now the indication inside these coincidences seemed to be along the lines of a invitation to the haunted mansion in Pennsylvania known as Elmhurst, possibly to meet up there with the ghost of the famous turn-of-the-century Gibson Girl who was said to haunt the place. Now before I share these audio recordings which I had made, first some background. And I can think of no better background, in this one instance anyhow, than to simply read from a few relevant newspaper articles. This first article is from the Altoona Mirror, dated October 30th, 1979. The section titled Elmhurst Ghost reads as follows. A well-known tale told in this area has its setting at Elmhurst in Crescent, the former summer home of the millionaire Thaw family. The 23-room mansion is believed to be haunted by Evelyn Nesbit, the young wife of Harry Thaw. Evelyn, born Christmas Day, 1884, in Tarentum, near Pittsburgh, grew into a beautiful young woman and was later to be described as thus. Slim grace of a fawn, a head that sat on a faultless throat as a lily on its stem, eyes that were the color of blue-brown pansies, a mouth of rumpled rose petals. She began modeling and posed for artist Charles Dana Gibson, creator of the Gibson Girls. Evelyn became a showgirl and, early in the 1900s, was courted by Harry Thaw and Stanford White, a noted architect of the day. White later designed Elmhurst at the request of Thaw's mother. Although Evelyn married Thaw on April 5, 1905, she was in love with White. Enraged by White's attention to his wife, Thaw shot White to death June 25, 1906, on the roof garden at Madison Square Garden, a popular entertainment center designed by White. Thaw was arrested and brought to trial 6 months later, but was found not guilty by reason of insanity. He divorced Evelyn in 1913 and died in Miami in 1947 at the age of 76. Evelyn pursued an unsuccessful stage career and moved to Hollywood in the 1940s. Reports say she died in a nursing home in San Diego in 1967. Almost a year after her death, her ghost supposedly began haunting Elmhurst. She was first seen by visitors when the estate was run as a public restaurant. Accounts of the sighting range from a lovely young woman with long brown hair and a white gown to a headless figure of a woman standing beside a bed. Footsteps walked the elegant staircase, and unexplained noises startled the staff. Within the last 2 years, an image of Evelyn, about 16, and an image of an angel reportedly have appeared on the beveled glass of a bathroom door at the end of the second-floor hall. Voices are heard arguing, and overnight guests have felt a presence leaning over them while they slept in an upstairs bedroom. Chairs move away from a table in the music room, the thermostat has been tampered with, and lights flick on and off. If Evelyn Nesbit wanders through Elmhurst, it might be that she associates the mansion with the last ties between her, Thaw, and White. She entertained lavishly at the summer home, but never really cared for it. Elmhurst is believed to be the only Thaw property still existing. Ownership of the estate has changed several hands since 1940. It was sold again this month, and its fate is unknown. Evelyn and Harry may still pace the rooms and long halls, seeking the peace they never had in life. Next, I will read an article from the Altoona Mirror dated November 1st, 1989. It is titled, "Woman Says She Witnessed the Spirit." Crescent. A woman who experienced the presence of Harry Thaw and Evelyn Nesbit while spending Halloween night 1978 in a second-floor Elmhurst room shared her story with members of the local Historical Association Tuesday. June Feather of Edensburg said she came to Elmhurst that night in a spirit of fun and curiosity with 4 other women, all staple types. The 5 slept on cots in the same room. While 3 of them slept restfully, only dreaming of a presence, June and another woman felt the presences in a fully awake state. The first spirit to enter the room, she said, seemed to be a man. Then about 20 minutes later, he returned with another whom they presumed to be Evelyn. I was terrified. I was wearing a little cross and all kinds of medals. I had never shaken so much in my life, Miss Feather said, standing in the elegant dining room. I thought I would never come back here again. She said the house then seemed to come alive with noises and scratching in the walls. Then somewhere along the line, I was no longer afraid, she recalled. This great sense of warmth and peace descended, and I felt very peacefully asleep. The next morning, she said, the image of Evelyn at age 16 appeared on a glass door in a nearby hallway. I would like, lastly, to share one last excerpt from an online newspaper article titled, "Cambria County Mansion Rumored to be Haunted by Legendary Gibson Girl," and in which the Gibson Girl in question, Evelyn Nesbit, was said to have appeared in actual human form. It reads, "Since they bought Elmhurst, the owners have heard most of the stories about the property. One tells of motorists picking up a young woman in a long white dress on nearby Route 22. In tears, she asked to be driven to Elmhurst. But when they neared the entrance gate, they discovered their passenger had unexplainably disappeared." Now, in the sections to follow, you will be allowed to listen to the audio recordings which I had made in early July of 2010. One thing I request, and especially if you are of the Christian faith, is that you keep an open mind while listening. Be aware that it was meanwhile during this time that I was spending many hours in prayer, and be aware, too, that the scenario of which these recordings speak would coincide with a very significant event in my life, which now has the potential to instigate sweeping reform, offer widespread blessing, and give great glory to God. Now, it was around the same time in early July of 2010 that I, in regards, wrote a friend. I asked this friend to pray for me before I set out for this haunted mansion in Pennsylvania called Elmhurst. I wrote the following. In the same email, I also wrote, these quotes in mind, the tenor of the recordings which you are about to hear would not suggest a would-be appointment with a malicious spirit or some wayfaring ghost, but an appointment with a lost soul, an actual person who once had been alive and still could be, in her own way, a lost soul who was somehow in need of my help.